Hey! So, this video is not planned at all, as usual. But I felt in making my last video that I might as well make this video. It's about religion. So my experience is mostly Christian, and I'm talking about church and services and stuff. I've been to, let's see, like Methodist, Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Roman Catholic, and Eastern Orthodox Church services. I left two out. Assemblies of God, which is Pentecostal, non-denominational, sort of big church, and another non-denominational, pretty big church. So, yeah, and I've also seen the TV church online. So that's the basic extent of my, in fact that's probably the only extent of my religious attendance at a service. So as far as Christianity goes, I have a pretty good basis, actually being in their church buildings and going through their liturgy or service, or whatever they call it. And in those experiences, I could say that I know what sort of produces a more spiritual experience for me, and so I base my beliefs on that. As you probably know, I believe that I don't want to offend anyone, and that's not really my fear as so much as coming off as thinking I'm absolutely right or anything. I'm not, and I don't have it all figured out, so don't ask me a lot of questions about it. I've done a lot of study on religion and books and videos, so a little bit in school, but school was pretty lacking in high school. So, and I've considered converting to many religions throughout the years, especially recently. So I'm just going to talk about my experiences mostly, I guess is where it could go, and what I think, some advice perhaps, just sort of the religion video, first religion video anyway. I believe that as far as Christianity is concerned, Orthodoxy best represents the original church, or is the original church, and hopefully the best spiritual practice for at least myself. Now, look, I'm not going to tell anybody how to worship or what to believe, but sometimes I might get a little, not hoity-toity, but that's not even the right word, but apparently arrogant about it. I don't want to be, but it's surprising to me the ignorance of Orthodoxy in the West. Now, that has mostly to do with the fact that the United States is primarily Protestant, is primarily Christian in general, but mostly Protestant or Roman Catholic. You don't see a lot of Eastern Catholics, and you don't see a lot of Eastern Orthodox Christians or Oriental Orthodox Christians, or Buddhists, or you know, it's mostly Protestantism, and that's what most people grow up with. So the ignorance is understandable. Now, that doesn't mean they're just, you know, wrong, or it's not their fault, is what I'm saying. But it does surprise me because of the fact that it's pretty well known, if you study church history, that in 1054 there was the Great Schism, you know, officially, between East and West. And then later, 500 years later, almost, Martin Luther came out and said, let's really get this show on the road, and split from Rome. So that traveled to America, where more denominations were formed, and it separated itself completely from the East. And so the ignorance, or the out-of-touchness of Protestants in the West to other Christians in the East is understandable. Now, missionaries have sent out every denomination to all over the world these days, and I think the gap is really definitely starting to shrink more and more, and that's just natural over time with everything these days, thanks to the internet, thanks to social media, all that. So my basis for saying it's the most accurate, original, perhaps right-believing church is perhaps half, about 50%, due to his history. If you look at the history, what was there before even Roman Catholics? It was the church, the one church. They split. Why I'm not Catholic, or why I've considered it. I've considered becoming Roman Catholic. But if one studies why they split, also theology, major beliefs, dogma, for example, then there are some, I have issues with some of that, and I'm still learning. I'm still figuring it out. One of the main issues is the changing of, I believe it was the Nicene Creed. Now, I'm fairly certain it was that creed. You can look this up. I think it's pronounced the Filioque, Filioque, and it's Latin for "and the Son." Well, what happened was, at some point, the West, Rome, decided to tack on the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. They added the "and the Son" without the consensus of the rest of the church, basically, without the East. And the East was like, hey, they didn't agree with that, and it's wrong because you didn't call a council, and also, you know, we didn't agree upon it. So that was a big mistake, and that's what led to, I'm pretty sure it was before the schism, that's one of the things that caused a split. Now, papal infallibility is another one. The Pope being infallible, the head of the church, sovereign, all that, whatever. The East is saying no, he's just first among equals as the Bishop of Rome, and, well, now that there's a schism, Constantinople kind of takes that title. So there are some differences, and then the emphasis on Mary seems to be stronger in Catholicism, but Orthodox Christians venerate Mary as well as the Theotokos, the Mother of God. So When I think about it, there are a lot of differences between the two. A few of them are just minor things, or most of them probably minor things, but there are a few pretty serious ones. And there have been talks throughout history, and I think more recently as well, at perhaps coming back together. Which, I don't know about that. But that's what I know, based on history and based on what's in my spirit, as some would say. What I really, it's really a faith thing, but I feel it that is correct. Orthodoxy is orthodox, as it were. So my story with religion throughout my life has been pretty simple. I was raised in the Methodist Church almost exclusively. Like I said, I've been to some non-denominational churches and the Disciples of Christ Church. One of those was for a couple years, almost a year perhaps, and the other was also, the Disciples of Christ was it would have been for almost 2 years maybe, and one of the non-denominational church that I actually attended as sort of a member, I guess, was for a while, but not as long. And those were both in Montana. But then after that, it was back to Methodism when we moved down south. So I was raised, Protestant, and I sort of never really believed, or I guess I never really thought much about it, especially as a young kid. But the older I got and got into youth group eventually, actually kind of liked church for some reason. I think around 9th and 10th grade, I became a crazy guy about it, and I was, I dreamt of evangelizing and all that. So I actually really began to believe, as it were. I did a lot of research, and it became this thing for me, an actual faith, I guess. And then I kind of lost that, and now, like I said, I've done a lot of research again, almost converted to other religions, sort of. I say sort of because, you can say you believe something, but until you attend services or prayers or whatever, mosque or temple or whatever it may be, you may not necessarily be engaging in that sort of lifestyle for that faith. And so, but I considered those, and so now I have doubts, as most people do, in some aspects, areas, and I think that's just normal. It will come around sometimes. But I like I said, I believe. I kind of know what Christianity is, at least, and hopefully what the truth is, especially for myself. Like I said, I'm not a bigot. I don't care what anyone does, believes. I'll be your friend. I won't shove it down your throat. If you ask, I'll tell you. And I thought this video, I felt I should talk more about it, primarily religion. But it's probably just not that necessary, now that I really think about it. But we're already here, so I'll see if I can muster up anything else to say. Tips, perhaps, on belief and religion. Do not try to convert people. I've attended AOG churches more recently. One church. It's AOG, not gonna lie. They're Pentecostal, kinda, very big on saving souls or whatever, I guess. Speaking in tongues, kind of that thing as well, which I'm just listening to things that are most different from anything else I've heard at church. But no matter really what church you go to, mostly they'll talk about how to live your life, how to bring people to Christ through various means. I don't see the point, perhaps. My theology has changed. I think that people, if they're happy in their faith, leave them alone, you know? Like I said, unless they ask you, or they're, don't go out and say, oh, he's a Muslim, so I gotta convert him to follow the Lord or something. It's like, yeah, I guess in the Bible it says you should preach the gospel to all creation or whatever, but I don't really, personally, I'm not gonna do that. I think how you live your life and this kind of thing perhaps is good enough. You don't have to say you're going to hell, or do you know about hell or something. Someone walk up on the street, stand on the street and preach to people. It's just kind of, you can do that, yeah, of course you can, but I'll never do that. I feel content with myself, with my friends, family. I think we're pretty good. As far as being saved and whatnot, like I said, I think it's more about what you do. I hope that God says, it's what you do. Have you transformed throughout your life? Have you strive to do something meaningful? And have you treated your fellow man as equal, with dignity, with love and compassion? I think that's going to be the ultimate thing. Religious practice is good for your soul, depending on what it is. And I do believe that. I believe that the liturgy is healing, prayers, and there's a right way to believe things. I think that. But ultimately, I guess it is definitely how you treat people, and don't be a jerk. In fact, I tried to sort of create my own religion in which the only command was don't be a jerk and have fun. So that's about it, guys. Have a good day.